So I went around a curve too fast. I slammed on the brakes and learned that very quickly wet leaves, it's like an ice skating rink.
Yes.
And I had no control of the car. I spun, and then I don't know how this happened. I ended up, there were these two giant pillars into I think it was a gas station. Maybe it was a bank, but it was a parking area. I think it was a gas station.
Well, how would you know if your eyes were shut?
No, it was in my neighborhood. I knew. But that's what I did. You know that. So
yeah, I know
as
that.
I'm spinning, I threw my hands off the wheel and I went like this. Hey, why don't you do an EV journey video with me, Kath? And I thought, gee, how nice of you to ask me. You've had all these people on before me. You never thought to ask me. So I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Wait.
For
Am I detecting that you were a little sad that I didn't ask you before today?
Could you tell that from the snarkiness in my...
Yeah, that was pretty snarky. Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today we're going to be driving out, and when I say we, my wife Kathy of 33 years, Out of Spec Mom, we're going to be driving out to see her dad out on Long Island. And I said, you know what? We've got the GV60 here. It's a beautiful fall day. The sun is out, but you know what, Kathy? I haven't actually had you on one of my episodes for your EV journey. So I said, whether or not you like it, we're taking a road trip in the GV60, and you're going to be my star. I'm pointing to you because you're the one behind the camera. So anyway, a couple of other quick things. Just a thank you for those that follow me on Twitter. Just hit 1,000 followers last night, which was exciting. And the other thing is my Out of Spec Dave channel, I've got almost 4,000 subscribers. And my goal is to see, can I get it up to 5,000 by the end of the year? We'll see. Who knows what happens? But anyway, thanks again for subscribing. Thanks again for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave. And let's get into it and hear my wife, Kathy, Out of Spec Mom's EV journey. All right, so here we are with my lovely bride, Kathy, otherwise known as Out of Spec Mom. Kathy, tell me a little bit about your car here and what we're doing here today.
Well, this is the Genesis GV60, which I've had since July, although I didn't start driving it until August. We are out here, took a nice little road trip from Connecticut to Long Island to visit my dad.
Yeah, so what do you think about it? This is not the advanced version. This is the performance version, correct?
Absolutely.
And what does that mean?
Well, it means it goes faster than the regular one, but I didn't get it because of the speed. I got it because, you know, that inside interior.
All right, let me see the seats. You know, not everybody's a fan of real leather seats, but...
Well, that's what makes the world go around,
right?
right? People have choices.
I agree.
I am a huge fan.
All right, let me get in there and see.
Look how gorgeous they are.
Yeah, that's, yeah. So, and that piping, I can see it shimmering in the light. Yeah, these seats really are quite amazing. And there's the crystal ball next to the Dunkin' Donuts.
It's the magic ball.
And the DC, the Diet Coke.
For a road trip.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, listen, I apologize I didn't ask you to do your EV journey video with me prior. I didn't know there was such demand. And
yeah, it's really nice how many people have reached out and they want to take a drive with you and talk about their EV journey. I find them really fascinating. I like to see how people are getting into EVs, adopting the technology, not being afraid to get away from an engine car. It's definitely the wave of the future.
Yeah, and hearing their stories is really great. You know, a lot of people have reached out to me that are far away. And so one of the things I'm going to start doing are remote EV journeys with a new piece of software that I'm just trying to learn. If anyone is interested in doing a sort of like a Zoom session, a little bit of a remote EV journey, reach out to me, let me know. Because that we can do weeknights, it's super easy as opposed to me trying to meet you. But if you live anywhere in the tri-state New York area, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, you know, hit me up, even Southern Mass. Let's find out what your EV journey is about. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I think it's super important like you said, we share the stories with
Yeah.
people, and everybody is on an EV journey.
Right.
And I think
Well,
the more
because
people,
let's face it, we all started right with the regular engine cars.
except for
and-
Kyle.
Exactly. Except for
Kyle started with the Peg Perego Volkswagen
That's right.
EV. So
Flying down our driveway.
yeah, well, Kathy, thank you again for being not only a super nice sport, but a super beautiful sport. How am
Oh,
I doing?
geez.
Am I doing good?
That's a little too much sugar.
Okay, so Kathy, welcome to your EV journey with Out of Spec Dave. It's nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you too. I really appreciate you
Yeah.
having me on today.
Well, I appreciate you joining. And, you know, it's funny, while I do know a lot about you, I'm not sure I know all of your perspectives, if you will. Maybe I know the facts and the timeline, but I don't really know how you feel about certain things. So today, what I want to do is I want to take a step back into your history of cars, if that's okay. Now, I know you're an accomplished musician, cellist, classically trained, amazing teacher, incredible influencer on many people's lives, and your students love you, and I'm so proud of you for that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about any of that. What I want to talk about are cars. Okay?
Your favorite topic.
No, it's just a little hobby of mine on the side.
It's your favorite topic.
Just a little hobby. So I was wondering, because I've never actually asked you, we've been married how long?
33 years.
33 years. So,
And we knew each other 7 years before that. So we're into this thing for 40 years.
and you still haven't run away from me yet? That's pretty scary. I mean that's amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm a very patient woman.
Yes, you are. I was wondering, because I've never actually asked you this question, what is your first memory of anything having to do with a car?
Any car?
Any car.
I think my first memory is my father, I was a little girl, had an old car, and I remember, I think there was a hurricane or something, and then there was water in the floor of the car, and then there was this hole. And I just remember the car was flooded, and it was rusty, it was navy blue, and shortly after that he got rid of that, and then he bought his first brand new car, which was is it a Plymouth Gold Duster? Plymouth, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was our first family brand new car.
I know. I remember you telling me about that. So your dad was, and we're going out to see him right now out on Long Island. He's, what is he, 97, right?
He's 97.
97 years old. And the man, you know, veteran, Navy vet, amazing guy.
Yeah, super sweet.
You know, God bless him, right? Always worked hard. Delivery man for bread companies and all different types of jobs. It's fun listening to his stories. But and so that first Gold Duster, though, do you remember about how old you were when you got that? And was that the most amazing special thing to get?
That's the first time we ever had a brand new car.
Right.
I mean, we'd had other cars, and you know they were, you know, what do we say now? Pre-loved. Pre-loved, but yes, that was a big deal.
And your brother George, he is a car guy.
Yeah, not an electric car guy.
No, I get that. He likes the
loud,
classics and you know the loud. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I like things with 3 pedals and gas engines and diesel engines as well. But what do you remember? What his were you both super excited when you got that?
I guess I don't
You
know
guess.
what
All right.
remember.
You just remember you being excited.
I remember my mother and I being very excited.
Okay.
I remember being in the dealership and looking at all the brand new cars.
All right. And didn't your dad get a Chevy? What the heck was that thing?
So when I was in
high school,
my senior year, he got a Chevette.
A Chevy Chevette.
Right, which he let me drive. He let me drive this other brand new car. That's just when I was, you know, in high school.
Right.
And yeah, that didn't go well.
What happened?
Why are you bringing that up?
No, I've never asked you anything about the Chevy Chevette, so, oh, maybe I have, because there's a really good story here. Right?
It wasn't that good.
It was good. What happened with the Chevette?
Gosh, okay, so on my 18th birthday, this is how you never forget things in your life. On my 18th birthday,
Okay.
I was off to a rehearsal with the symphony, and I took a detour. And
is there any reason why you took a detour?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just curious.
Yes, there was a reason.
Was there a boy?
There might have been a boy. I was
Oh.
driving past his house in a residential neighborhood.
To show off that you were driving.
Maybe.
Okay.
And
see, the truth, I actually never knew that.
You didn't know that part?
No, I didn't know that
you
part.
You just know me.
So you went the long way home.
I went the long way to rehearsal.
To rehearsal.
I went the long way to rehearsal, and there was a four-way stop.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't stop. And the lady who banged into me definitely didn't stop. And thank goodness she was so sweet. So we just sort of collided. And then she jumped out of the car. She saw I was young and I was very shaken. It was my first accident.
First accident. Okay.
And anyway, that was that. And I had to drive home with the front end of my father's car all squished in.
Oh boy.
And I cried and cried and cried for days. And I did the typical teenage girl thing where I said, I'll never drive again, ever. Not getting in a car ever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But actually, that's interesting because that wasn't the memory that I had of. I remember something about
my cello.
No.
Oh, because that got broken too.
No, I remember. Well, we'll talk about that. But I do want to get to your EV journey. But there's a lot of data here.
Don't dig up too much.
No,
dirt,
but just
please.
what I remember something
or I may
about.
Plead the fifth. I might plead the fifth.
Do I remember something about spinning out, going like this?
Yeah.
And going.
Yes.
Can you tell that story?
Wow,
because
I can't believe you remember.
No,
that.
I remember that story.
So
that's why I'm driving and not you today. Just so you know.
No, that was in the fall of my senior year. My car accident was in the spring at my birthday. So in the fall, pretty much like now, right? A fall day that wasn't as beautiful as today, but all the leaves were on the ground.
Oh, was this in the Chevette again?
This was in the same car.
The Chevy Chevette.
In the Chevette.
Okay.
And I came flying around a corner a little too fast, and I learned a big lesson. And by the way, I tell my students this all the time because it's like, when they're driving home from one of my rehearsals, the seniors, and it's raining, I was like, you have to go slow and respect the turn. So I went around a curve too fast. I slammed on the brakes and learned that very quickly, wet leaves, it's like an ice skating rink.
Yes.
And I had no control of the car. I spun, and then I don't know how this happened. I ended up, there were these two giant pillars into I think it was a gas station. Maybe it was a bank, but it was a parking area. I think it was a gas station.
Well, how would you know if your eyes were shut?
No, it was in my neighborhood. But that's what I did. You know that. So
yeah, I know that.
As I'm spinning, I threw my hands off the wheel and I went like this.
Right.
And the next thing I looked, I was safe. I had gone right through the middle of those brick pillars.
That's a proven evasive maneuver. To just shut your eyes, let go of the wheel.
Let nature take its course. I had no control anyway, and I thought I was going right into it. They were huge, the brick pillars.
Right, so what happened?
Well, so then when I opened my eyes, I saw, of course I was slowing down, and then I was able to grab the wheel and just stop, but I was shaking.
And you hit nothing?
I hit nothing.
No damage?
Divine intervention that day.
Okay.
No damage. In fact, I don't even think I told my father about it, so don't bring it up.
Okay.
This afternoon.
No, I will. No,
you will not.
I will not. I will not bring that up.
That was not good.
Okay, so then you went.
We're not going to talk about all my accidents or near misses, are we today?
No.
Because this is my EV journey.
Yeah, it's your EV journey, but all of this.
This isn't the life and history of Out of Spec Mom and.
No, I understand, but it's
poor judgment in driving.
The word experience has so many things that hang off of that. Little tidbits of information. So off you went to college, right?
I didn't have a car in college.
Didn't have a college. That's a car in college. That's where we met.
Yep.
At Ithaca College, right, in upstate New York, and I had a car there, and it wasn't a great car, but it was my
little Honda, right?
my little Honda Accord, which I've talked about. I love that car.
You loved that car.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but when you graduated from college, you got your you got a teaching job on Long Island,
Yeah.
and you got a piece of mail from Ford Motor Company, right?
Yeah.
And what did the mail say?
The mail said, congratulations, because you're a college graduate,
Yes.
we are giving you $400 towards a brand new car.
Right. And what do most people do with those pieces of mail?
I didn't know, but I guess most people, like I do now, I throw things like that.
Throw things out,
And,
right?
yeah,
But in your case, what did you do?
Oh, I ran to my father.
Okay.
I said, Dad, look what I got. And he thought it was good. So my mom and dad went with me to the dealership.
Okay.
I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted a bright red Ford Escort.
Right. That's exactly what I would have gone to get. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a really inexpensive car,
Yes.
but it was brand new, and it was going to be mine.
Now
and
you're-
I was getting $400.
And you were getting 400. Now your mom and dad were very hardworking and frugal, and did not recommend spending above your means.
So we are in,
Right.
we're in the little office with the dealership
Right.
sales guy, and he says, well, you know, do you want air conditioning? And I said, yes. And my mother said, no, she doesn't need that.
You don't need air conditioning.
I'm like, I need air conditioning. No, that you don't need air conditioning.
Right.
Okay, then he said, well, how, you you probably want power windows. And I said, yes. And my mother said, no, you don't need power
Don't need power windows.
No, you don't need, you just roll them down. You don't need power.
Did she let you get a steering wheel?
I think she didn't have a choice.
She didn't have a choice on that. If that were an option.
Yeah, there were no bells and whistles on that car. And in fact, I saved money, even more money,
right,
because I didn't get an automatic. I got a stick shift.
You got a stick shift?
I got a stick.
Did you know how to drive a stick?
I had no idea how to drive a stick.
Okay.
But I had a friend who had the same car, and I figured if she could drive a stick, I literally can drive a stick shift.
Okay.
So anyway, there it was, my cherry red Ford Escort.
Right.
Came home, and it sat in my driveway for a week. And I went outside every day and I washed it, but I didn't know how to drive it.
You didn't know how to drive it.
So I finally nailed my brother down, and I said, George, can you teach me how to drive a stick?
Oh boy.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
No.
So we went around the block. He cursed at me the entire time. It's not good.
Man.
So I drove around the block with him. I got tired of him yelling at me, and I pulled in the driveway. I said, you are no help. So then my dad said, all right, I will help you.
Okay.
And my father,
who by the way is probably the most patient man on the earth, right?
Most patient.
Right.
Anyway, my father sat there holding his head and just laughing at me, shaking his head and laughing. And I came back around the block and I said to him, you are no help. How come nobody can teach me how to drive a stick? And you know who taught me?
No.
You don't?
No.
My mother.
Really?
My mother said,
well, maybe I did know that.
I will teach you how to drive.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And I said, Mom, you don't know how to drive a stick shift. She said, yes, I do. My first boyfriend taught me how to drive a stick.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day. Do you know my mother was so patient?
Wow.
Yep. She was so patient. She didn't laugh at me. She didn't yell at me. She just guided me like any good teacher would do.
Right.
And yeah, so now I can drive a stick.
Wow. And so.
But do you remember what I did to Kyle when he got his stick Mini Cooper?
No.
I pulled a really good joke on Kyle.
What did you do?
So he had the car and he never knew.
Are you talking about Kowalski?
I think it was Kowalski. It was one of the minis. It must have been
Countryman.
Kowalski. Yeah, the Countryman.
The white Countryman. Yeah, that was Kowalski.
White, black.
Yeah.
So Kyle came home one day and I said, Kyle, I really, really want to learn how to drive your car.
Oh.
He's like, Mom, you know, a stick is complicated. I'm like, no, please teach me. I bet you can teach me. I bet you can teach me.
Look at you.
So I get in the car.
Bait and switching your own son.
I had the best.
Was there any money, like bets involved here?
No, it was just one day. I decided I was just gonna like play a joke on him.
Okay.
So I get in the car and I act all nervous and oh my gosh, what's that extra pedal? What do I use? My left foot? Do I use my? I don't know what to do, Kyle.
Right.
So he tried, and then I go down the driveway, and I'm like jerking it. He's like, Mom, you got to take it easy. You got to be a little lighter and gentle. And then we go just a little bit down the block, and then I floor it. I'm like,
no way.
He's like, holy moly, Mom. Yeah. It
wow.
was the best joke I ever pulled.
You are a fast driver.
Yes, I know.
That's for
but
sure.
It was great because he had no idea.
Remember Tom Cruise in The Color of Money? And he would like fake everybody out in the pool cue movie. He would pretend that he didn't know how to play pool,
yeah.
and he would swindle people.
That was me. I wish
That
there
was
was
you.
money. I could have made some money off that kid, Kyle. Yeah.
I did that once with a unicycle.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I made $5. I was like, I went over to my buddy's house. He had a unicycle. I go, what's that? You go, wow, that only has one wheel. How hard can it be? Right? And and of course I knew how to ride a unicycle
Yeah, you
pretty
did,
well,
really well.
and I was good at the skateboards, unicycles, or anything like that. And I got on it, and I fell off the first time, and I said, oh, I think I got it, and then I just kept riding, and they were like, oh my goodness. I said, this isn't that hard.
Tell me you learned how to ride the unicycle downstairs in your mother's house, because that alley was that hallway was narrow.
That's a long story.
Wow.
It was a Schwinn unicycle, and I learned in my parents' basement hallway.
Yeah, you could hold.
And there were fingerprints permanently embedded on the paint. They had to put wallpaper up. It was so bad. All right, so interesting. Now, you had the Escort.
Had the Escort.
And
I loved it.
And you loved it. And then.
Are you going to ask me why I got rid of it?
Well, I was going to say, fast forward to, we ended up liking each other in college.
We got married. We went on our
honeymoon. Went on our honeymoon. And
Bermuda was very nice.
Bermuda was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
What was the first thing I did when we got back from our honeymoon?
I don't think we had even dropped off our suitcases. And you're like, we have to switch out your car.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of this car. This car's not cutting it.
There's no way. There's no way. No disrespect to those that have Ford Escorts or love them. I personally did not like the Ford Escort. But anyway, so what did you do? What car did you buy?
Well, when we came back from our honeymoon.
Right.
And you decided we could not have a Ford Escort. And I liked it. But
yeah.
Anyway, then we went and I got a Beretta.
Chevy Beretta.
Chevy. I didn't remember what that was.
Yes.
Yeah. So and I should have learned. That was just the beginning. That was just the beginning of all the car switching.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
No.
So we had a lot of cars over the years, and what is your first recollection of electric or anything to do with a battery that in our family? It wasn't Kyle.
No, it was Kyle.
What was it?
It
was Kyle?
We got him the little, this goes back, that little yellow Peg Perego.
Oh, okay.
Convertible. I think it was like a Bug, right? Like
the Volkswagen. You're talking about like when he was a toddler.
He was like 3.
3 years old.
He was 3.
All right, so this was his first EV, was a Volkswagen, a Volkswagen Beetlebug.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Plastic
Peg Perego.
So cute.
And
that kid we had a big house up on a hill and a big driveway, and he would go full, do you remember? He'd go flying down, and then
I made him wear a helmet when he drove that thing.
He should have known this would be his future in cars, because he took that little yellow Peg Perego flying down the hill and then turned it.
Yes.
Drifted it and
drifted. He would do a 360 down the driveway.
Yeah.
To the point where I had him
very skilled.
I had him wear a helmet because I was afraid that he was going to flip the thing.
Yeah, it was a steep.
And then what ended up happening was I was as a kid I was big into skateboarding. Big bump. All right, and I knew about grip tape. And those wheels on those Peg Peregos were plastic. And so what I did was I went out and I bought skateboard grip tape, and I put the grip tape around the wheels so that he couldn't spin it out. Remember how sad he was?
Oh, he was angry.
And like, he couldn't spin this thing out. He couldn't get going fast enough to spin it out. Yeah. And the grip tape stayed on there because it was really gluey. Yeah. And finally, I remember it wore down, and then he could spin it out again. But do you remember then he got a second EV when Katie was
the red Jeep.
The red Jeep. Yeah, he got a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
And
then Katie ended up with a Barbie Jeep when she got old enough.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So anyway.
So those were 3 EVs.
Those are the 3 EVs.
3 EVs.
My first impression of EVs.
All right.
Plug them in at night. The kids play with them.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember Kyle used to drive Katie and the kids in the neighborhood around, and he was like an Uber driver back then.
He'd drive up everybody's driveway, let the little other 4-year-old in.
Yeah, give them a ride. Yeah. Absolutely.
He was very popular.
And he could do that for hours.
Hours.
Hours. And you know what was amazing? Was when we had him lined up in the garage. I got to see if I can find a picture. When he was driving one, the other two were on the hook charging.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because he
didn't
would
want to run out.
He wouldn't want to run out of any kind of juice.
Yeah.
So
he needed his
like
car.
we're
Even
talking
back then.
we're talking about
A 4-year-old.
someone who
Yeah.
had figured out this EV thing a long time ago. So anyway, all right, fast forward now to the real
EVs?
the real EVs. What do you remember about electric vehicles?
Well, I remember you came home all excited one day. You were in the city.
Right.
And
Okay.
you were in a Prius taxi cab.
Yes.
You couldn't stop talking about this taxi that you were in, and you were watching over against the guy's shoulder.
Yes.
The screen and the charging.
I remember
And
that.
I don't know, probably you with a blink of an eye, because let's face it, you change cars faster than a baby needs a diaper change.
Oh well, thank you, honey. I've that's a visual.
It's just whoop, whoop, whoop. Anyway, I'm sure right after that you bought your first Prius.
I did.
Yeah.
It was a Gen 3. I was driving a Range Rover.
Yeah. I was like,
And
okay.
but it didn't matter. I was like, this is the coolest thing.
The technology.
And it got 50 miles to the gallon.
Woohoo!
And I was so excited about that. And you were looking at me like, what
You got rid
is
of that Range Rover?
wrong with you? Getting rid of a Range Rover to get a Prius, which people laugh at. And
Well, some people.
well, back then,
Yeah, it was so new.
it was kind of a joke, right? Like, for the most part, a lot of people would laugh at you if you had a Prius. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I didn't care. I was completely fascinated.
You've
With-
never cared. You've always been about the technology.
The technology was insane. I remember the little graphic of the energy going from the battery to the wheels, and then from the wheels back to the battery. I was like, what is going on here? And I used to try and hypermile that thing, get as many miles as I could.
Yeah.
So anyway, I I had a couple of Priuses and
Is
and
it
then
Prius?
Prius. And then I remember when I got an i3. And what did you think of that thing?
I actually thought that was, watch out up here.
Yeah.
There's something weird happening.
Yeah. All right, I got it.
Okay.
The i3.
Well, I thought it was a little unusual looking.
Right.
Cute, small.
Electric.
it
It
was
was electric, but it had that range extender engine.
Yeah,
For peace of mind,
I
right?
liked that it was BMW, so I thought probably the build quality was good, even though I didn't really know. But I
Right.
liked it. You loved it.
Oh yeah.
You loved
Still
it. You
love
were
those
excited
cars. They're
about it.
great
Yeah.
cars.
Just a little small.
So much technology went into those cars and all of that. But after a while, Kyle and I started getting into the Teslas, right? And he wanted to go see a Tesla for his birthday. Forget which birthday it
I think
was.
it was like six.
I don't know. He wasn't allowed to drive the car, and I drove a Model S, and I couldn't believe how great the car was. And then we ended up having a number of, I don't remember, Model 3s, but what was your first EV? And I have a question. Was it your decision to actually get rid of your gas-powered car?
Do you remember what car it was in? The Model 3 was my first. And I actually bought that one in Florida.
You were in a BMW
What did I have?
3 Series convertible, 4 Series convertible.
Oh, yeah, that was a
428i,
great car.
white with tan leather.
Yeah. Today
Right.
would have been a convertible day.
But there was something with
Oh, I
that.
remember why I didn't like it. It was low,
It
number
was-
one, but more importantly, the door, it was only a
A huge door.
The door was so big and heavy that it used to bother me every
Right.
time I had
And it was tough to
open
park
it.
it and
was
park
hard
because
to
of the
park.
door angles, right?
That's why I started complaining.
Right.
about
Well,
that car.
look, any little in that you give us, right? And I
Us,
say
you.
me, Kyle, not Katie, but
No, Katie's
you know,
like
we're
me.
we're going to suggest improvements
You're going to jump
your
on that,
lifestyle,
yes.
right? So you got the Model
So I got the Model 3,
3.
and I loved it. White. right?
Yep.
I loved it.
And you had been familiar with the models because we had an X, we had an S, we had a
I've
3s.
been nervous about, obviously, about driving electric full time for myself.
Right.
But I had enough experience, at least being in them, that it wasn't that intimidating. But
Right.
nevertheless, it was a big jump, if you remember, for me to say, okay, I think I'll get the Model 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was nervous.
And you had that car, and then the Y came out.
Yeah, but did I go from the 3 to, I did. I went from the 3 to the Y, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I remember-
Oh, and I loved the Y.
And I remember we made a video for Out of Spec Reviews when you traded
I picked it up
in.
in Westchester.
Right, in Mount Kisco
Yeah.
or Katona, whichever.
I remember now.
And we made a goodbye video and a hello video to from your 3 to your Y,
Yeah.
and that was on Out of Spec Reviews back in the day.
Yeah. That's
and-
probably only about 3 years ago, maybe.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, not too long ago.
And
But I felt a significant difference in the car going from a 3 to a Y.
what do you recall?
I felt it was, well, obviously it's bigger. I sat up a little bit higher. I thought the visibility was phenomenal in the Y. I don't know. I know people joke about the Tesla build quality, but I could feel a difference in the Y. I felt it was better built than the 3.
Okay.
I just remember feeling it more solid, more stable. I remember I did a video with Kyle. He came down to Florida, and he's like, "Mom, let me just, get your impressions of the car." And he was like sort of baiting me to say, "Oh, I don't like this and I don't like that," but I loved everything about the Y.
Right.
And he's like, "No, but Mom, is it really, like, does it drive soft enough for you?" I was like, "Yeah, I like it. It's great."
Yeah. Yeah, because his pet peeves with the Ys is the steering ratio is too quick, and it's
Yeah.
kind of a firm riding car, and it's. But they are great, and they're very easy to recommend to people as their first EVs.
Very easy.
And a lot of it's because of the charging and the infrastructure. So when you had the Model Y, for the most part, you charged it at home,
Yeah.
right, on a level 2.
Yeah. But again, I remember now doing that video with Kyle and just saying how there's nothing to worry about with a Tesla because it has the best charging network.
Yeah.
Why worry about anything? You can find them wherever you go, especially now, and that was 3 years ago, but wherever I went, they were always readily available.
Right. And have you ever, in your experience, even with me, can you count the number of times when you've plugged in and it failed?
Yes, I can count.
How many times?
0.
0. That's pretty
I
good.
can't remember an instant
And-
where we
and-
had a problem.
And we've had a lot of CCS cars. How many times can you count on your
I need my fingers and my toes times 5.
times 5
Yeah.
where it just doesn't work? And how do you feel about that?
Well, look, I'm in a Genesis, and I mean, you know how much I love my car. I love this car, but I was a little nervous because of the Electrify America. But I think maybe it's getting a little bit better. I'm used to the app.
Right. So you're good.
I'm good.
You've
For
been
my little
around.
distances that I do.
You've been around Kyle and myself with like for a long time, so you know how to charge, you know what to do. But for your lifestyle, for what you use this car for, do you ever go to
No.
an EA super or whatever charging,
No.
CCS charger? So what do you do? Like, what's your
I just-
lifestyle now with this car?
I come home from work and I plug it in. I go to work in the morning and I unplug it.
And you plug it into what?
The unit you have plugged in the garage.
Right. You know that's just a 110.
Oh, I know. It
Or a
doesn't-
120.
It's
That's not even-
fast, but I don't drive so far that I need to be at
Yeah.
Electrify America. Like today, we'll need to go because I wasn't fully charged. We're heading out to Long Island.
Right.
We'll hit one out there.
Right, but what's interesting is, for as a daily driver, your commute is how many miles a day round trip? Maybe 35, 40 miles.
Oh, round trip, yeah.
20 miles one way, something like that. And so if you're charging at, let's just say, a rate of 3 miles or 4 miles on average every hour or so, you come home 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you put your car to 90% just in case you need to shoot out to see your dad, right? Just as a safety net, not to 100. And every morning when you come out to your car is back up at 90%, even with the just having a regular wall outlet. The thing is, I didn't think I told you this, but for the number of times that now that we're running two EVs again, because you got rid of your Porsche Macan, I do want to put a level 2 into our garage. So that's probably over the next few weeks I'm going to be installing that. And I just think that it's good if we come back from a road trip, then you don't have to worry about it. You plug in, you get your 35 miles every hour, and then the next day you're good to go, right? And so for the number of times that we have that, I think it's a peace of mind thing. We're going to do that. And so overall though, what is it that you like about electric vehicles in general, and what would you tell someone who's never experienced driving an electric vehicle?
It's like driving it's called a regular car. The difference is you don't have to go to the gas station and pay for gas. They're quieter, they're faster. I mean, this car is so fast and so quiet.
And you're coming out of Porsche Macan.
I know.
And now that car did have a good exhaust note, though.
I mean, when I got, I
Vroom, right? You started it up. Yeah, that thing had a good
morning.
Exhaust note, which is, and I kind of miss that too. That's all right.
But no, it's just no different than driving any other car. You just have to maybe fun a long trip. Obviously, you have to plan, make some arrangements, know where you're going, and have a plan B in case that plan A doesn't work out or the chargers are filled. Too many people, more and more people are at the charging stations now.
Right. So what would you tell someone who is maybe has a male counterpart in their family who's saying, hey, you should get an EV, and they get a little afraid? Or perhaps, let's just say it's the wife who is like, I don't really want to do that. What advice could you give a female counterpart to a marriage that you have lived and gone through the transition?
I would say check out some Out of Spec Dave videos that I'm in sort of getting used to this car. There's me just being me, like, what does this button do? What does that button do? There's a whole lot of buttons.
Yeah, there are a lot. And by the way,
much technology.
When I took this car up to the Renaissance Festival in upstate Connecticut,
with the
pickle guy, I could not, for the life of me, remember half the buttons in this car.
Right?
Because once you get it, it's great, and I'm sure you drive it every day and you get closer with it. But your advice though for someone is, a lot of these cars today, they're just cars, right?
They are just cars.
Okay. And with
a whole lot of technology.
And the smoothness and the pickup, and if you're plugging into your house every day, you and I have talked about this.
And by the way, didn't we just look at our electric bill and it's not any higher?
No, it is a little bit higher, but justifiably so. We have a very cheap rate for electricity at our house in Connecticut. It's a little bit higher.
But you're not paying for gas.
No, we're not paying for gas, and more importantly.
Or how about when I had to bring the Porsche in, and I always had those expensive maintenance bills.
Oil change, we're over $300 for an oil change on that car.
Right.
And and the thing about this car, you have the 3 years of free Electrify America, which we'll take advantage of that today. But it's not only the money, but it's also because you don't pump gas, right? That's just not part of your, I don't know.
My father told me when I was young, I never want to see you pump gas.
Oh, so I have to have a talk with him today.
No, he had to talk with you. I think that was part of the arrangement. Okay, you can marry her, but you have to pump her gas.
Yeah, and I signed up for that. And
my father drilled that into my head that I should never pump gas.
So what happens on Sunday night? It's 9 o'clock. Kind of tired.
Oh, honey, you have to get gas in my car.
And it's like, why couldn't you tell me that at 4 o'clock?
Or you could have been proactive and thought, oh, it's Sunday. I bet she needs gas.
Okay, so it's my fault.
Yeah, you have
All right, it's always my fault. Just so you know, it's always my fault. But the benefit, from my benefit of this EV, is
you can relax on Sunday night.
I don't have to worry about Kathy saying, "All right, Dave, I need gas. Right? Can you go out and get me gas?" It's not only cheaper, but it's more time.
Or what do I usually say? Should we go get gas?
Oh, should we go get gas?
Which is code.
Should we go to the grocery store? Sure, we should go to the grocery store. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, there's a lottery tonight.
I just saw the sign. It is up to $1.6 billion.
$1.6 billion.
Just think of all the Teslas you can buy, and the Lucids, and the Rivians.
Well, no, forget about me, okay? What if you were to hit the lottery tonight?
Yeah.
And you could buy any car, gas or electric, what would your dream car be?
I don't think you're going to like my answer. I have two choices. I don't think you're going to like one.
Okay, you need two answers? Do you want two answers?
If I win $1.6 billion, I can afford.
You could buy the damn company. You could buy the whole company.
Plus, we don't even have a ticket to win it, so we better go buy a ticket.
Yeah, we'll do it. We don't want to rush it. You know, we want to let all the people get the bad numbers out first.
I think.
Yes.
I would get the Lucid.
Really?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Grand Touring.
Whatever the Mac Daddy is, that's the one I would get. I would also get the Mercedes EQS. Is that the big one?
Yes.
That's what I would get.
Would you get the EQS SUV?
No, that's too big. I just want
you want
the sedan that's sort of comparable to.
But you remember one of your favorite cars of all time was the Mercedes. You had a couple of them, E-Class.
Oh, I love the E-Class.
Right, remember the one with the round headlights?
Yeah, that was special. In fact, I don't even know I knew that I was getting that. I think that sort of showed up in our driveway.
No, that was an S-Class. You got it. You got 1 year. Kyle and I.
All of a sudden, I was surprised with the new car.
Yeah, that was a 2007 S-Class. But your 2010 E-Class, you love that car.
I love
because the thing about the the E-Class is a little bit smaller, it's a little more nimble, you can get in and out of places.
I couldn't park the S-Class.
The S-Class was big, you know, it was big. So that's why I'm saying maybe you would rather have the EQE.
I didn't know there was an EQE.
There is. There's
but I saw some of Kyle's videos on the Mercedes and just the interior and all. Yeah, I've always been a fan.
build quality, the Germans
they just do it.
I mean, this is a gorgeous car on the inside.
This is a fun car.
Tell everybody about. Well, let me just finish one thing. EQE sedan and EQE SUV are both becoming available now.
What do they go for?
No. I mean, I think 80 and up. Maybe 75 and up, something like this.
Okay,
this was 70 grand, right? This comes with 3 years free Electrify America. I don't, it doesn't really matter, but maybe we'll look at it. Maybe we'll look at,
I'm not ready to change yet.
No,
I have no complaints.
Okay,
and if I have no complaints, you're not allowed to.
No, I just said look.
Let's go look at a puppy.
Let's go look at a puppy. And then Bailey comes home. All right. So you love. Tell me about the Lucid. What's your feeling on the Lucid?
Well, I just think I like the styling. I think it's really beautiful. I'm really attracted to that long range, even though I don't go anywhere, but I go places with you, and having more range, I think, is always optimal.
Yeah.
To have that, and look, I think Peter Rawlinson I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I've heard him speak several times. Of course, the British accent doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I'm rooting for that company. I think the cars are great. I would love to see more of them on the streets.
Yeah.
And we saw one for the first time.
We did.
Last week.
Yeah, up in New Canaan, right?
We were parked head to head with the S-Class and the Lucid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Lucid is what I admire most about that car is the technology, the fact that it's all vertically integrated. The company's been around for a long time, built on battery technology from the electric, open wheel races that they do. And, I just feel like they've chosen the right hardware in the cars with the 800 volt systems and all of that. It's just, I'm a little bit skittish on their software to commit right now, and that's why I went with the Tesla for now.
Yeah,
but I am keeping my eye on them, and I think it's just a matter of time before we get one. But and software, to be honest, is, I know it's a challenge, but it's an easier fix to program computers and then to rip out and say, oh, the whole entire infrastructure, the motors and whether it's the the ADAS systems or the different systems they have in the car. So I feel like they've made the right hardware choices. It's just the software, it definitely needs a little refinement, and I'm confident that 2023, I'm hoping, is going to be a much better year where they can really deliver a number of software upgrades. And then, but I'm historically been a big early adopter.
Yes.
And for the kind of price tag that they're looking for, that's a lot of money to be an early adopter as a ratio of our income, my income.
No,
So the Lucid, we'll see. 2023 is going to be an interesting year for Lucid, from their ability to deliver not only more cars, but we'll see what happens. On November 15th, they're going to be announcing the new Lucid Pure, which is the one we have on order. But Kyle says you need the roof.
of course he does.
And what was interesting was the Pure was originally going to come out with rear-wheel drive only, and I hear that it's first bringing it out with all-wheel drive. And if I'm going to get the base model, I'm only getting the rear-wheel drive model. And I don't necessarily need the extra speed. To me, the right one is the Grand Touring, which has the 516 miles of range.
Sure.
I'll get the smaller wheels and the speed with which it charges. That's the ultimate road tripper for me. I would want to drive it though first, but in the meantime, I'm really enjoying the Model S, and I love it, everything about it. So I did want to talk to you a little bit about some of the features that you like on this GV60. And for those that did not actually, what brought you to this car? I remember
You brought me to this car.
Okay, physically I brought you to the.
Physically brought me to this car.
And how did that happen?
A really cool place, the Genesis house in Manhattan.
Right.
And I think Kyle asked you to film something there, and you begged me to go with you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into Manhattan that day, but I went, and there it was, sitting on the showroom floor. I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It is beautiful.
And because I had the Ioniq 5 at the time, which was a great car, but honestly, you didn't love it.
I didn't like the way it looked.
You didn't like the way it looked. You liked a lot of the technology in it, and but
And I liked how happy you were. You really thought it was super cool.
I do.
And it is. For me, I didn't want to drive it.
Yeah, I did like that car an awful lot. So you saw the GV60, and I was like, honey, if why don't you? And I wanted to get a Tesla at the time,
right? Just
because I wanted to play around with the whole CCS and
I didn't want to get a Tesla.
You didn't want it. You didn't.
Yeah.
So you got the GV60. We sold the Ioniq 5.
We sold the Porsche.
Right. Well, that's right. You traded in effect. It was a whole convoluted thing. But there are a number of features on this car which are pretty cool. What are your top 3 features that you like about this car?
The crystal ball, number 1.
Okay.
The best. I love the crystal ball. How many times, and you've driven this, and and you because you're used to a Tesla, you just get out, which makes sense, obviously. But there's an extra step in most electric cars, and you're just used to it. You get out, the car's still on, and I always have to remind you, no, it's not off until you see the crystal ball.
Yeah.
You always forget to hit the little button. So I don't know, I just love that. And then of course the massaging seat, which I don't even think you put on this trip because I haven't reminded you.
Oh yeah, I got to hit it 3 times for the full body stretch, right?
You have to have that one too.
Okay. Got that.
That's a great feature.
All right.
And I don't know, what else do I like? I like everything.
So
what else don't I like?
So how about the face recognition?
That has come in super handy.
How is when?
I use it at least once a week from work. I leave something in my car that I think, I should bring that into the building. And instead of having to bring out my bag with the key, I just walk out to my car, push the little button, put my face up there, it opens up, I get what I need, and it is
right.
Every car should have that.
And these seats, how are you liking the Napa leather seats?
Aren't they beautiful?
They are beautiful.
They're just beautiful. I love them. Yeah. The car is so aesthetically pleasing, both on the inside and the outside. The materials that they've used, I'm really impressed with. It just feels, it's very high quality.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't an inexpensive car.
No, definitely not.
It's not, Lucid and Model S level.
No, I mean, listen, let's face it, this was a step up, and the reason why you wanted the premium sport or whatever the heck version they call it,
was for the interior.
Was for the interior,
yeah.
Which was an interesting challenge. I'm going to go around this way here and then sneak in. I'm going to keep going down this way because this Long Island is just a little bit.
Which is, by the way, I know this is supposed to be my EV journey, and I messed up your format because you usually like the person you're interviewing to drive.
Yeah.
But
after hearing about all your accidents,
right.
I decided let me chauffeur you around. No, I'm kidding. It's just driving out to Long Island is a mess. It's a mess, and I have an aversion to it. Whenever we go anywhere together, I usually drive, right? Because I love to drive
and I love to be chauffeured.
And you love to be chauffeured around, so it's a good good feeling.
That's how it's been 33 years.
But one of the things that I wanted to, we had forgotten about one accident in particular, that before Kyle was born, but yet Kyle was in existence. He was in a car accident.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? You had a BMW 525
in that beautiful emerald green color,
leather, right? Tan leather seats. Yeah. Tell us about what happened.
Well, and my parents had just sold their house on Long Island and moved to Pennsylvania.
Right.
And we had just bought a house up in Vermont, and we took a weekend. I said, all right, you go to Vermont, I'll go out and visit my parents in Pennsylvania for the weekend. And
this was before kids.
Yes,
right.
Before kids.
Before kids.
We were really young.
Right.
And I had our first puppy with us. I had Muffin.
Oh,
with
Muffin.
Us.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was so tired. I remember just being overwhelmingly tired. And I drove, and I was probably 3 exits from their exit, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
And that was rough. Anyway, there was I'll never forget, a red pickup truck. When I woke up, Muffin, who was in the passenger seat, was gripped to my shoulder on the left side, right? And glass was everywhere. And I remember thinking, what happened? And I saw the pickup truck in front of me swerving, and I pulled over, and he pulled over, and I didn't want to admit that I fell asleep because maybe I wasn't even sure at that time. It's like, I literally
had no
idea
right?
what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, nobody was hurt. He, again, was very kind to me. I'm always appreciative when people are nice when there's an accident,
nice.
Because, there's enough to deal with.
Right.
So, my dad came, I wasn't that far from their exit. He helped me sort it all out. And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant with Kyle.
That's right.
So there it was.
So Kyle was trying to drift out on the Pennsylvania highway.
That's what it was, because you came.
Look at that Rolls Royce over there.
That is cool.
Holy moly, that's a beautiful car.
You came flying down from Vermont.
Oh, flying. I drove down.
No, I know, but you saw my skid marks. Or the truck skid marks, somebody's skid marks you saw.
And you know what I do recall, because I went back to where it happened.
Yeah.
And you are so lucky that pickup truck was there, because there was an embankment that went down. Like, I don't know if you would be here today, and I don't know if Kyle would be here today.
And I don't even remember that red pickup truck on the road. Literally, it was a beautiful early Saturday morning, bright blue skies, can't blame anything on the weather. And I remember feeling like I was the only car on the road. And then next thing I know, I've collided and there's this red pickup truck, and I don't even remember him on the road.
So the reason I wanted to bring that accident up.
But that car was like a tank.
It was a tank. It was a solid car, and we were able to get it fixed. It was superficial damage. It wasn't anything structural. But the thing is, Kathy, and I keep telling you about this, even with all the Teslas you've owned and that we've owned, you don't use the advanced driver assistance.
Oh, is that why you're bringing that up?
It is. Because I want to remind you and everyone else that not to rely on ADAS or auto steer or the dynamic cruise together that they call autopilot. This car, they call it HDA, highway driver assistance. I like to call it Hyundai Hyundai driver assistance. But look, when you use that technology, and if you were to fall asleep, let's just say, then the car,
which I don't recommend,
which you don't want to do, right? There's no doubt. But if that were to happen, then the car is not, for the most part, on average, it's not going to, drift out of the lane and go into a pickup truck. All right. And so what might happen in a situation like that is, if the car detects that your hands aren't on the wheel, or in some of the more sophisticated systems, and I say that even beyond what Tesla does. So for example, the Super Cruise system from GM and some of the others, they'll actually see if your eyes are looking at the road, and if you're not, they will actually warn you in the form of either sound or lights. And some of the systems that are out there today, some of the better systems, will even start tugging on your seatbelt that will wake you up. And these are life-saving pieces of technology. A. B, when you use these technologies, even on your daily commute, Kath, the thing is, it's just more relaxing of a drive. You don't have to sit there and constantly, that's weird. You go that way for Manhattan, this way for Eastern Long Island. I guess it just goes around.
Here's the parking lot known as the LIE.
The LIE, whatever. So what I want to do on another day, and I know that you haven't really been using the HDA on this car at all. In fact, when I mentioned it to you last week, you said, "Oh, my car doesn't have that." And I said, "Kath, don't you remember the whole discussion about how upset I was that it doesn't have HDA2 and it doesn't do lane changes?" And yeah, but that's not what you're talking about, is it? I go, yeah, it is. So I want you to remember that if you, I think you got extremely lucky with that accident.
I know I did.
And at 525 back then.
I know I did.
Okay. And someone, I don't know what you believe, but someone was looking out for you.
That was divine intervention. And I often believe it wasn't because of me, it's because of Kyle. Okay.
And you know what? It's possible. But there's some other kinds of intervention that you don't need it to be from the divine, divinity, whatever category of ethereal beliefs you have. There's technology built into these cars today that can help you if you use it properly. And I really want to encourage you to try to use it. And I'd love to ask you back onto the channel. How's that? Out of Spec Mom, come back on Out of Spec Dave's channel.
Yeah, that's a tough one to get. Yes.
Yeah, I'll knock on your door and say, "Hey, would you like to do?" But I would really like you to start using it and come back and give your impressions as to how it's helped you, or maybe you don't like it. So it's not for everybody.
Look, full disclosure, I used it when I had the Teslas. I know how to use. I don't really know how to use this one, but I knew how to use the ones in the Tesla.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'm old school about everything. I like to drive.
That's
but
fine.
I understand your point, and I agree with you. But I agree with you to a point, because I think this whole phantom braking thing that happens
I've not
with
ever
that technology.
this car. I've never had a phantom brake.
I don't think that's true.
What, this car?
Weren't we out last weekend and you did something? Were we in this car or were we in your car?
We were in the Tesla.
And a phantom broke. I was with you.
Yeah.
And there was a.
The Tesla, my Tesla.
Oh, it was your car. I thought it was
My Tesla definitely phantom brakes, but not that often.
No, I agree.
This car, I have yet to have it phantom brake.
Okay.
And I think my Ioniq 5, maybe 1 or 2 times when it did something. And as much as that bothers me that it does it, like the amount that it bothers, the amount that it happens in a Tesla, I think that there's room for improvement there in their software algorithms. But but the amount that it happens in the EGMP platform cars, whether it's this or the Ioniq 5, is so minimal. I'm okay with it. In other words, if someone who programmed this car, you know, somewhere in South Korea 3 years ago, had a little setting that says if this boundary goes out, then brake, I'm okay with that, because it happens so few times. But I would like to ask you to learn how to use that and come back and just share your experiences. And I've shown you how it works and how it engages back after you do a lane change, because it's not full self-driving, like, and how in a lot of ways it's better than the Tesla, my Tesla, because I don't have enhanced autopilot, which does include lane changes, and I don't have FSD, which I'm not even a believer in, at least not yet. I'd like to try it out for a month for $199 and report on it. I just need time to be able to do that, and I will do that.
Well, I think Christmas
break, maybe when Kyle's going to be visiting.
Yeah, Kyle is going to visit.
He'll be down in Florida with us,
nice.
So maybe the two of us will have some fun with that. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah.
I think that's a good
Maybe Kyle can buy me that for Christmas, $199. You know,
if he was a good son.
Yeah, if he were a good son, he would buy me a Plaid that already has it built into it. So on that note, folks, we'll end this video. Kathy, I really, once again,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and it is an honor to have you share your EV journey with not only me but everyone else. And I learned a few things, and
you were quite inquisitive today.
Yeah, you know, I got a few questions up my sleeve. Something up my sleeve. Anyway, have a good one. We'll catch you on the next Out of Spec Dave video.
Take care.
Take care now. Bye-bye.